Hi, my name is Lisa Cummings, and today I'm going to share with you some information about regulatory compliance, which is required for cash balance plans. Before I share that information with you, I want to provide you with some background information regarding Cummings and Cummings Law. You can find us online at www.cummings.law. Cummings and Cummings is a full service law firm. We assist businesses as well as organizations with their legal needs. We assist businesses with transactions as well as real estate development. We also assist organizations as they're planning their businesses as it relates to retirement plans, executive compensation, and cash balance plans. My name is Lisa Cummings. I have spent my career working with large organizations to ensure that those organizations offer their employees compliant as well as cost-effective retirement programs. And now let's talk a little bit about cash balance plans and key compliance requirements for those plans. A cash balance plan can unlock very large tax-deductible contributions for the organization, especially for owners and higher paid professionals. But the reason they work is also the reason that they require more compliance than 401(k) plans. A cash balance plan is truly a defined benefit pension plan. And that brings a different set of IRS testing rules, non-discrimination requirements, as well as annual reporting obligations. In this video today, I will walk you through what compliance really means, what gets tested, what can fail, and how well-designed cash balance plans stay on the right side of the rules without surprises. Cash balance plan compliance typically has three different components. The first component is IRS testing, which must occur on an annual basis. What this looks like is this confirms the cash balance plan is fair and operates within IRS limits. There also will need to be a non-discrimination rule testing, which occurs on an annual basis. This anti-discrimination or non-discrimination testing will confirm that the cash balance plan follows the rules that apply when owners and highly paid employees receive much larger benefits than other employees. And then the third category is reporting and documentation. And that typically includes annual 5,500 filings, which are filed with the IRS, participant notices, and actuarial certification proving that the plan is funded and administered correctly. Cash balance plan compliance reflects the three buckets of the IRS testing, non-discrimination, and the reporting and documentation. Now, let me take a few moments and go into a little bit more detail about each of these. The IRS testing will ensure that the benefit contribution boundaries are followed. It will also ensure that there is a defined group of individuals who are covered and when they become covered by the cash balance plan. Operationally, the administrator or the record keeper of the cash balance plan must follow the legal plan document, which will have been executed when the cash balance plan is first established. And then importantly, the organization must ensure that clean compensation and eligibility data is provided to that administrator so that whoever is preparing the payroll for your particular organization must ensure that the payroll information as well as detailed employee demographics is able to be extracted and then provided to the plan record keeper as well as the actuary. The second bucket here is non-discrimination. There are fairness rules that the IRS has adopted that cash balance plans must follow, and those fairness rules will test highly compensated employees. Here it's shortened as an HCE compared to non-highly compensated employees or NHCEs. Additionally, a cash balance plan will typically be designed to work alongside of a 401k plan. That 401k plan will allow the employer to make additional profit sharing or qualified non-elective contributions to the plan for the non-highly compensated employees, so that overall the plans together will ensure that there has not been a discrimination in favor of the highly compensated employees. Your employee demographics, when they change, those can impact the results of the non-discrimination testing. So the classifications must be consistent and documented. And third, the reporting and documentation for every cash balance plan will include annual filings as well as required notices to every single cash balance plan participant. The actuary will need to value the underlying liability as well as compare that against the funding that has been occurred and which will need to occur into the underlying cash balance trust, and then document that. Additionally, the organization, the employer, will need to ensure that timely deposits of the funding are made and tracked. And then the organization will need to ensure they keep organized records, which will include the plan document amendments and the timing of the contributions of the employer required funding. Clean payroll data from the organization can help result in reliable testing, which occurs with the record keeper as well as the actuary, so the actuary can provide you with predictable funding, and this can result in on-time filings with the IRS. An annual compliance timeline along with a plan sponsor checklist looks a little like this. So first, each and every single year, the employer has to collect the census that's your employees along with their compensation. This may also include their dates of birth, what is the definition of the compensation as stated in the underlying legal plan document, what are the separate groups of employees that you have as defined in the plan document. That census information is then submitted over to the actuary. The actuary will actually run the testing and then project the fundings. And then the actuary will present that back to the organization, which will approve the contribution strategy and ensure that the employer required funding is made on a timely basis as mandated by the IRS. The employer will fund the contributions on schedule, make sure that they keep track of the deposits, and then the plan administrator working with your ERISA counsel can ensure that the plan itself is able to file the required reports and retain records. So as a plan sponsor, that's the organization's name that adopts a cash balance plan, then we'll need to ensure that your HR payroll definitions match those definitions that are in the payroll document, that the annual plan health review occurs. In other words, that there is a review of the underlying demographics that occurs, and then they need to ensure there is funding, that's timeline that is followed. You do not want to be in a rush when you're working with an actuary, which typically takes time for them to look at their numbers, and then also ensure that you retain all of the required legal documents for your particular cash balance plan. As some practical next steps, cash balance plans are one of the most effective retirement and tax planning tools available for organizations. However, they are not a set it and forget it type of a plan. These require annual care and feeding, and that annual care and feeding results in cost as well as requirements that have to be followed every single year. The best outcomes happen when the plan is designed specifically for your workforce and then administered with discipline, which means clean data, consistent operations, and timely reporting. Ensure you select the right ERISA counsel that can assist you with coordinating all of these important activities for your cash balance plan. Thank you for joining me today.